Okay, welcome to the gateway to Nirvana. I'm really excited about this, and I really want this to be an incredible resource for you. I have all these notes, and I'm going to try to get through them as quickly as possible on this call, but there's a lot I want to cover. So stay with me, and I'll give you an opportunity to ask questions at the end. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is I'd love to do a little grounding to get us into this space. So if you want to go ahead and close your eyes. Just getting present into the body. Allowing your energy level to come down a little bit and just relax into the space. Breathing into the heart with the intention of opening up the heart space. Maybe deepening your breath. I'd love for you to imagine that if you were to open your eyes right now, you would be transported into a completely different space. And this space is home. It feels good. It's a space where you can be who you are without apology. It's a space where you feel seen and loved, respected, honored, on purpose. It's a space that lights you up and brings you so much joy because you get to be you. You get to show up as you in the world. And I'd love for you to just take notice of what this space looks like. Are you in the forest? Are you on a mountaintop? Are you deep inside the ocean? Are you on another planet? Where are you? And in this space, there's no worry. There's this total separation between you and the rest of the world. In a way that allows you to experience life in its purest form. And from this space, I would love for you to tune into your heart right now, your soul. And I'd love for you to ask your intention for this call. Why are you here? Just allow the answer to come through. And if it doesn't, that's okay. Just be in the stillness. Take 3 deep breaths on your own, just to seal in that intention into your body. Open your eyes when you're ready. Okay. So a little bit about me, if you don't already know me. I have on my website a bunch of names for myself, and it's always evolving. So the moment I pick one, it just, sometimes it doesn't resonate anymore, or sometimes it just evolves into something differently. But I give myself permission to be whoever I want to be. So some of the words I have are disruptor, purpose guide, liberator, activator, truth collector. A big part of my purpose here is to discover truth through experience, through the unraveling. And that's what I want to talk about tonight in terms of the gateway to nirvana. And I'll share with you that my vision for nirvana was initially this space that I created for my intuitive training. And I let it evolve into its own world. And so these islands started popping up, and nirvana became its own island with these separate pieces of the work that I do. And I've had a vision that nirvana actually becomes a real life island someday. And it's this space where people come to completely transform who they are. And I keep seeing this vision of me standing on the tip of the island, and people are coming in off the boat, and I'm saying, welcome to nirvana. And right now I feel like I'm on the road as a nomad, meeting all these different healers all over the world. And they're going to be a part of this with me too. So this gateway to nirvana is really my version of that island. With my surroundings now, with the world that I live in now. It's me creating that space now. Because I realized that I was putting a glass ceiling on my dreams because I don't have this island, and I'm not sure how it's going to come to me. So I'm just going to create it now. Nirvana is that embodiment. It's the embodiment of truth, of who we are. And this gateway to nirvana is the path. I don't even want to say to get there, because there is no there. There is this continual evolution. So my intention tonight is to share with you some of the things to consider that have been really important for me on my path. And I will have an invitation at the end into my version of nirvana right now. So I hope you will stay with me till the end to hear that. there's a lot. If you don't know about my journey, I was in corporate for 15 years. And I started my awakening journey, I would say my mid-20s, where it was kind of peeping through, but I wasn't always honoring it or paying attention to it. And then once I turned 30, I started experiencing a lot of anxiety and I started to go to therapy. And then my path with the therapist evolved. I hired a coach. I started meditating. I started tapping into my intuition. And here I am on this intuitively led life now. And I love to share with people that I used to get paid to think, and now I make all my decisions with my intuition. And I share that with you because I want you to know that it's possible for you too. Even if you're one of those people that feels like, I just can't get my mind to shut up. I met an 80-year-old mystic on the road, and she's been in her intuitive journey for about 40 years. And she said she still can't get her mind to shut up. So the difference is learning how to manage it, learning how to integrate it, not rejecting the parts of us that are here, the world around us that is here. It's how can I witness all of this and decide what's in alignment for me? That's what nirvana is all about. So my intention here is to open your world to some of the stops I've made along the way and the nuggets of wisdom that I've picked up along the way. I want to share that. I want to gift that to you so that no matter what you decide to do after this, I hope that it just plants a little seed within you, that it sparks your light. And I always say that when that light is sparked within us, when we listen to people talk and something in us is like, oh, yeah, I felt that. That's our soul, a piece of our soul turning on. And we can't turn that off. We really can't. It's like the eternal flame. So the first thing I want to talk about is why I'm doing this. What is my mission here? This is something that one thing I want to say about purpose and mission is that this is something that evolves with us. As we evolve, so does our purpose. So if you've ever tuned into your purpose, if you ever had a reading done about your purpose, if you've ever taken a test about your purpose, like however you've come to find what your purpose is, or maybe you don't even know it right now. What I want you to know about this is that it evolves. It's not stagnant. Right now, my purpose is to help turn on the lights of other people. To inspire them to let go of everything that is not theirs and to come back within to the truth within them, to that infinite wisdom within themselves. I happen to do it through intuitive guidance and teaching. That's the majority of my work. But there are a lot of ways to do that. I just want more people walking in alignment in this world. That's my mission. That's what I feel right now. So one thing I want to talk to you about is values and aligning with your values. When we approach life from a space of values, that's when we are connected with our why. That's when we're connected to this deep resonance of what we're doing. That's how we stay motivated, because what we're doing matters to us. And sometimes you can look at values not just from a perspective of what matters to me, in terms of, like honesty, truth, patience, but also like, where do I react or get triggered when somebody goes against my values, does something that goes against that? It's a different angle that you can look at from values. It's not just what lights me up and inspires me, but it's also like, what drives me crazy? What triggers me? Because there's a value on the other side of that. And something that I realized is that I am always reevaluating my work and evolving in the work that I do and the things that I offer in the world. And this is something that took me a little bit to accept, a little while to accept, because I was worried as I was starting my business that because I was changing so much, that people might think she doesn't know what she's doing. She keeps changing and she must not be clear on who she is and what she wants to offer, But the truth is that I have a lot of interests and I'm evolving very, very quickly. Very quickly. I always have, and I probably always will. And to be honest, I feel like it continues to speed up. So it's really important for me to step back and reflect on what matters to me right now. What are my values? And are the things that I'm offering, that I'm putting out in the world, in alignment with that? Because if they're not, I'm not going to show up to them 100%. My heart won't be in them. And it's more important to me to be in alignment, to be all in on what I'm offering, on what I'm contributing to the world, than to find something that just makes a lot of money all the time and I don't feel connected to it at all. In order to figure out if you're in alignment, there needs to be this detachment and releasing from the world around us. And this is something that I've been practicing for a long time. I've been listening to a lot of Ram Dass recently. And one of the things I wrote down from something I was listening to him with was removing the projections in which we see the world so that we may return to living from a space of purity. This is something that I feel sums up a lot of the work that I do in the world. Removing, dismantling those belief systems that we've been, the conditioning that we've grown up to believe. It's releasing all of that. Because when we have those, That's the lens we see the world. To me, this is really about releasing all the identities we ever thought we had. Even like being a woman. So feminism is something that is, has been on the rise for a while now, right? There's a lot of feminine empowerment out there. But if I am so attached to being a woman, that's the lens that I see my life through, And then when I look at a man, or someone who's gender neutral, all there is a difference, right? He's not a woman. They're not a woman. That's a lens. We stop seeing people for who they are, for the core of their being, when we're looking through all these lenses. These are the projections that I just said. Money. People who identify as being poor or being in lack and scarcity a lot, and then they look at the wealthy, right? There's us and them. Skin color, religion, politics, all of these identities that we've put out there in the world, they continue to create separation between us. So I'm going to read that quote again. Removing the projections in which we see the world so that we may return to living from a space of purity. Imagine what the world would be like if we were all living in alignment, knowing who we are, not attached to anything or anyone around us, but just completely in our wholeness. Imagine that. And not just for you, but for everyone. What if we were all living that? How different would the world be? There'd probably be a lot less hate projections out there. Judgment. When you're finding your alignment, it's important to be questioning everything. Question it all so that you can realize, I know this is me. I had a friend say to me how she's just in awe of the fact that I can just let things go. They don't feel good to me, that aren't in alignment for me. And that took work. There was a progression there, right? In the beginning, when I had to start saying no to these things, that I'm like, you know what? No, this actually doesn't feel good to me. And some of this stuff was hard. It made me question who I am. It made me question if I was a good person because I didn't want to do these things. But when I started saying no and honoring my energy, honoring my decision, the more that I did that, the more it allowed me to just notice so deeply when something was in my energy that was not in alignment. And so now it's like a leech. It's like an energy that is so alarming to me that I cannot have it in my presence. And it's just more and more choosing, like, this feels good, this is an alignment, this feels good, this is an alignment. And then all of a sudden, I look back and I'm like, I am in a space of alignment. And I'm not saying that I'm all the way there, quote unquote, there. That's what this is about. That's what this journey is about. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is fear, our relationship with fear, uncertainty, mystery, evolution. These are all the points I wrote down. When we're on the journey, it's really important to be able to face our fears. When we're in a state of survival, we cannot access that truth within us. When we're reacting, we can't sense that true wisdom. So it's really important to be able to acknowledge and witness the fact that we feel fear about something, and also to decide that we're going to choose differently. We're still going to choose our alignment. The thing about fear is that fear is ego-based. And the ego likes identity. So remember all those things I said we're going to be detaching from, letting go all those identities that we hold. Ego loves those. So what we're doing is we're disrupting the ego's environment, which is going to bring up more fear naturally, right? The ego doesn't understand. It doesn't know, like, what is my identity now? Who am I? What do I know? And what you need to know about that is that it's very limited. It's coming from this knowing of like brain capacity. If I had to equate it to something, it's like, what have you learned in your life versus holding this space of intuition and infinite wisdom. Knowledge that you've never read in a book that you can tap into and just feel resonant in your body. Which do you want? Fear is something that I realized I always do the thing. Whatever I'm afraid of, I always do it anyways. So then it becomes, how long am I going to fight this? How long am I going to be in suffering till I decide I'm just going to do it and see what happens? Because what's the worst case? I pivot. I go a different direction. Get really comfortable with being uncomfortable. And the key here is making sure that it's not a matter of survival. So are you afraid of something because you're actually in danger? Or is this pushing you to expand beyond the ego's comfort zone? There's a lot of mystery on this path. I'm in Arizona as I'm recording this. I was not intending on being here this long. My mind wasn't intending on me being here this long. But the guidance I'm getting is to stay. And I don't know when I'm leaving. I don't know where I'm going next. And that's okay. To be honest, I feel really safe right now. And the old me would have been worried. Where am I going next? What am I doing? What's my path? Needing to know the next step. I always hated that question when I was in corporate. What do you want to do? Where do you want to be in 5 years? I hated that question. And I was always like, I don't know where I'm going to be, but I'm going to be successful. Wherever it is, I'm going to be on top of the world. You really don't have to know the whole path. You just have to know the next step. And sometimes that's day to day. Sometimes it's moment to moment. Depends on where you're at in your life. But I want you to know that whatever that is, it's okay. It's perfect. When we're so caught up in planning and needing to know the future, we lose all the value of the present moment. And that's the only thing that's certain is right now. And we're so afraid of uncertainty, yet we want to spend all of our time there figuring it out, right? The other thing I want to say about fear is that it wouldn't be here if you weren't growing or you weren't in danger. You know, I mean, that's a given. But you know the difference. You really do. In those moments that you might feel caught up in anxiety or worry, take a few breaths and ask yourself, am I safe? Eckhart Tolle says, ask, am I still breathing? And it just takes you, I love that. I love the simplicity of that. It just takes you right back into your body. Because it's almost like when we're in that space of fear and anxiety and we're unraveling like that, it's like an out-of-body experience. So the invitation is just to come back. I learned when I was in therapy just to call out what I was feeling. So I used to put my hand on my chest and I'd say, I feel anxiety right now. There's a difference between saying, I feel anxiety in my body and I'm an anxious person. There's a big difference in that. So when you can let yourself just witness it, and in fact, when you speak it out loud, it's like it pulls its power away. It brings you out of that cyclone. It can be a spiral if you let it be a spiral, but you can also notice it and say, okay, like it's just here. It just wants to move through me and I'm still focused on this. In evolution, in this path, this is something you have to get really comfortable doing. It's the next thing I wrote down: integration, witnessing, and paradox. This is where you get to say things like, I feel anxiety right now, and I'll be damned if I'm giving it my power. Right? I feel scarcity right now, but I'm still going to put this money down. This is when we get to hold space for both. That's the paradox. When we're on the journey from lack and scarcity to wealth, we don't just jump from one to the other, right? We're holding that lack scarcity energy, and we can feel the vision of the wealth. And we're moving closer to that vision while we still feel that lack and scarcity. There can be a lot of frustration that comes up when we feel like I'm here and I need to be there. It can create a lot of frustration because we're trying to jump ship. Right? We're rejecting where we are, thinking we're doing something wrong, judging ourselves, but we're not. It's perfect. And what happens is over time is you continue to hold this vision, and the vision gets bigger and the energy expands. And there's less and less room for that low vibration. Right? So it just keeps getting squeezed out and squeezed out and squeezed out. And to be honest, it might not ever go away. You know, you might always have moments of feeling that. And then what happens is, as you're in this transition, as you're on this spectrum of where you are now and where you want to be, at some point, you know, you're choosing where I want to be, where I want to be, where I want to be. At some point you look back and you're like, holy moly, look at where I am. Look at my life. How did I get here? This is quantum leaping. When we release that pressure of time. Because when we're holding it so tightly, I just want to be there. I just want to be there. I just want to be there. When we're holding that, white knuckling it, it just keeps us there longer. Because all we can think about is why we don't have that. Right? What we focus on expands. So it just what makes the energy of where you are get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Right? So you need to be able to release that pressure, release that grip, and just choose a little bit more. In fact, I wrote down, I was listening to a woman speak about legacy and wealth yesterday. And she was talking about how guiding yourself into this, what if this worked more? So instead of thinking, why isn't this working? What am I doing wrong? What if this worked? This is about spending more energy in where you want to be. And she talked about ask and you shall receive. And she said, be in this energy at least 51% of the time. And I love that she said that, because it just acknowledges the fact that you can still hold the energy of where you are, but you're just holding a little bit more of where you want to be. Right? And over time, I believe that that does shift and grow, and what you're holding becomes a bigger percentage. What you focus on expands. This is the journey to integration, the gateway to nirvana. It's witnessing so many things that you didn't think were possible to hold together. Ram Dass talked about, what would it feel like for us to, as those of us on the spiritual journey, how a lot of us try to keep our heart open on the path, right? That's important. And I talk about this a lot with my guidance and intuition and teaching. Keep your heart open, let your gifts evolve. And he talks about how, like, when we say no to someone, our hearts typically close. Like, we go to guard them and protect them because we're saying no to someone. So he said, what would it feel like if we kept our heart open when we said no? These are the things I love to think about. This is what it's like to have a conversation with me in real life. But think about that. The next time you say no to someone, how much are your fears activating for how they might respond to you, how they might judge you, how they might feel about you honoring yourself? What would it feel like to let the guard down, to let the walls down and just stand firm? And this is who I am. This is what I believe in. And my heart is still open. It's interesting little experiment to try. Priorities is the next thing I want to talk about. A lot of what I hear from people is they don't have time. Time's getting away from me on the integration journey, right? This is something that I hear a lot from the people that I've worked with. I love it when I'm in it and I'm doing the things that I learned, but it's about finding the time to do it. We make time for the things that matter to us. This is an invitation for you to get radically honest about what's important to you. And for those of you watching this who are already at this place of, man, like, I need a change right now, but you keep choosing what's happening, you keep choosing the life you have, the current life, you're choosing a path of suffering. And I know that that might not be easy to hear. And you might say to me, Kristen, if I had the money, I would do it. And if I had more time, if I didn't have 100 kids, I would be doing it, like, whatever, There's another thing I wrote down this weekend that I loved. Consciousness cannot grow without financial security. So that is one thing I do want to point out in terms of priorities. If you are in a space where financial security is not present, that is survival. That is a space where you're going to be amped up and in fear and in survival. And I need to figure out how to support myself, my family, whatever that is. And remember what I said earlier is that we cannot access our alignment, our space of truth when we're in that space of reacting in survival. So I do want to note that because it's important as you're choosing to evolve and you're connecting with teachers like me. It's important to me that everyone that I work with is in 100% alignment with working with me. And I will never force you into that. I will invite you to see what's possible. But I would never ask you to be in a state of survival and come work with me. This is something unfortunately, I wish I didn't have to say, but there are people out there who will, talk to you about all the ways that you can afford working with them. And as much as I said, is my mission, I want to help light up as many people as I can in this world. I know, and this is a big lesson for me, that I cannot push people back past their own point of evolution. Because I evolve so quickly, sometimes I've been guilty of holding that over my clients. That becomes that projection that we talked about earlier. I want them to hurry up on the path too. But it's not that I want them to hurry. It's just that I know what it feels like to be where I am. And I just want them to see it. I want them to push in their evolution. But I can't want it more than they do. This is one of the big reasons why I decided to stop coaching, because I don't want to be in the business of pulling people along, holding people accountable. That does not light me up. And it took a lot for me to say that in my own alignment. I had to honor that this is what I like to do. This is a one-way conversation right now. This is actually a really good point too, because my job as a wisdom keeper, this is another one of my little names I like, is to hold this space. I wouldn't be able to light people up to inspire them if I always dropped into the energy of my client, of the world. Of the person I ran into at the store that was having a bad day. If I let myself drop into that energy all the time, I would not be able to hold this space. That's an important part of witnessing. When we choose this path of truth, this path of alignment in who we are and standing in our own power, we're going to be faced with a lot of people that aren't into it, that want the old you back. But this is priority. This is where you get to decide, is their experience of me more important than what actually lights me up and makes me feel great about who I am and who I'm being in the world? Is that what's more important? I'm asking you to get really honest. And if money and that financial security is an issue of survival for you right now, there are things you can do in the meantime. Before I started investing, podcasts were